board meeting to order. Let the record show that we're all here except for Charles and Alina. Charles is traveling and Alina's doing a retreat today, so they're all busy. So with that, I'm going to ask Teresa to help us with the pledge.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, board members. Good evening. Tonight, I would like to introduce you to Will Douglas. He's a fourth grader at Hickory Hills Elementary School. And 2 weeks ago, after Hurricane Harvey hit South Texas, Will approached his principal, Ms. Sarah Odom, because he wanted to do something to help. And instead of receiving gifts for his birthday, he wanted to do a drive for the victims of the devastating storms and flooding. So he made an appointment with Mrs. Odom, and along with his brother Tyler, raise your hand, and friends Reese and Bo West, and Hazel and Sophia Sawyer, and Eli Brotherton, he proposed organizing a drive to collect stuffed animals, blankets, and pillows. So these Spartans and Mrs. Odom worked out a promotion plan, which included announcements, posters, and calls home to Hickory Hills families. The students brought donation boxes to place throughout the school, and the drive is currently in progress. So they've coordinated with Convoy of Hope and are trying to fill a truck that will be headed to Texas soon. They've already filled a number of donation boxes. So these students are just one example of the generosity of our students throughout the district. As I'm sure you've heard, many of our schools have organized other efforts to collect money, hygiene items, and other supplies that are needed by those who've been devastated by the hurricane. The Hickory Hills Drive ends Friday, so if you haven't already contributed to one of the other drives or supported the hurricane victims, Will, Tyler, Bo, Reese, Hazel, and Sophia, and Eli would invite you to support their collection drive. So in addition to his friends, parents are here with us. If they would please stand, and Mrs. Sarah Odom. And now I'd invite you all to stand as Will leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, moms and dads and everyone.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
Fill that truck.
Now we have a staff member to recognize. I'd invite Mark Black to come forward. Each day we entrust the safety of our students into the hands of our employees, and our bus drivers play a particularly important role in student safety as they transport more than 7,600 students to and from school each day and drive more than 2 million miles each year. This evening we're pleased to honor one particular bus driver who has honed his skills behind the wheel to ensure student safety. Mark Black competed in 2 bus safety competitions this summer during the Missouri School Bus Driver Safety Competition hosted by the Missouri Association for Pupil Transportation. Mark won first place in the conventional bus category for experienced drivers, and he tied for first place overall. His performance at the state level qualified him to advance to the 47th Annual School Bus Driver International Safety Competition in Indianapolis this July, and he took home 10th place honors there. So join me in congratulating Mark and thanking him for his dedication to our And I might note, if you didn't recall, he's been received this award several times in the competition. I've lost track of how many years you've competed in this competition and taken home awards.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Nice work.
That's
Thank you very much.
And he got here just in time because he was finishing up a route this afternoon. We moved up
outside, didn't
we moved up our board meeting time. It pressed him a little bit, I think, here, so we appreciate his
Parallel park.
keeping safety in mind while he was trying to meet our time schedule. Thank you for coming.
Congratulations.
Now I'll turn the podium over to Marty Moore for some partner recognitions.
So education has provided a critical pathway to success for students and their families. And what we've learned over years is that healthy partnerships between schools, the faith-based community, and our community organizations help us more readily achieve the goals that we've set as a district and ensure that we have engaging, relevant systems of support for all students. Together, we've learned in working in collaboration, we can achieve so much more than any singular entity by itself. In the spring of this year, we were approached by a forward-thinking group in the Springfield faith community who wanted to begin working collaboratively to rethink supports they have been providing our sites and students for years. They asked if it were possible to support a school in serving as a hub to unite area faith-based groups collaboratively instead of competitively. They listened, and they listened again to see what sites needed and how they might support them in ways that lived out that school mission of providing engaging, relevant, and personal education. They captured best practices from the field and began sharing more ofs and less ofs with their congregations. 2 initiatives were targeted for fall of 2017. The first is already underway, Shoes for School distribution to 21 Springfield Public School elementaries, with a process that was arrived collaboratively through discussion with Springfield Public School staff. The second one will launch later in the fall, Helping Hearts and Hands. This smaller pilot targets 8 Springfield Public School elementaries. Sites were selected because the churches in their area had expressed a desire to work collaboratively as a team at the principal's direction to serve our students. This will allow those 8 sites to have a faith-based team to support their work. I think you can see immediately the power of this approach and the game changer that it's going to be in Springfield Public School. And to my knowledge, nothing like it exists in the country. And we've already been approached by some people who would like to learn from what this great group, this team has come up with. So special thanks, as always, to Ren Lubring for capturing a few of the pictures to let you see what this great work group is doing. So tonight, we honor the vision of this faith-based collaborative as they look ahead to engage even more deeply with sites to support every learner every day. I'm going to ask each of you to stand as I call your name, and Teresa's going to help me with certificates. Russ Goslin, representing Elevate Lives. Jenny Paul, Elevate Lives. Bob Roberts, Second Baptist. J.T. Patton, Freshwater Church. David Jane, Central Assembly of God. Anthony Matrone, also Central Assembly of God. Tom Faulkner of Crosslines. And Jason Henson of Victory Mission. Many of these names are familiar and you've seen them in multiple service arenas. I'd like them to each stand one more time, and let's give them a applause. And I know they'd like to stay, but we're gonna pop on out that door.
You're gonna miss the exciting part, guys, you understand that?
was really looking forward to that financial agenda.
I know. I can have Carol call you later if you want.
Perfect.
We can work something out there.
Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Okay, moving on. I do need a motion to approve the agenda or modify the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Denise, for your second.
Second.
Second by Jill to approve the agenda. Okay. Item 2.01 is public comments. Ms. Luke, for agenda items? Great. Okay, moving on. 3, consent agenda. 3 items, 3.01, approval of minutes, 4.01, contracts and agreements, 5.01, personnel elections. So I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Tim. Is there a second? Second by Bruce. All those in favor, please vote. Okay, great. Moving on to 6.01, Treasurer's Report. Ms. Embry.
Good evening. We posted for you our standard reports as we do each month. And again, note that we have a stable ending fund balance projection for this year. You'll see a slight reduction from 16.47 to 16.39. And the budget amendments that are affecting that are relative to the conversation we had with you about the ACT opportunity, where that funding has ended from the state level. So we've allocated $80,000 for that cost for this year. And then we also have a decrease in county revenue for county stock insurance receipts.
What is that?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I need to do some more discovery on that. It isn't a common revenue source.
Yeah, I don't think it matters much to me, except
It-
it's just interesting.
It's just interesting, yes. So then we also had some other expenditure and revenue changes relative to a grant. So those are noted for you in the items of interest report. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Questions for Ms. Embry?
No
Or Carol?
questions. She's gonna email just you, because I don't know.
I'm going to email him all I can find, which is not much,
All
about
right.
the county stock
That
insurance.
could make a big difference.
It could.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Motion by Jill, do I hear a second? Second by Tim. All those in favor indicate appropriately. Okay, moving on, item 7.01, Foundation for Springfield Public Schools update. It's Natalie Murdoch.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
so
you
much
for coming.
thanks for having me, and I have a couple of value members of our team with me. Our past president, Kern Lemons, and our director of development, Pamela Anderson, are here. So as you know, what we do at the foundation is a group effort. So just want to give you a few quick updates, a little year-end review for you. So last school year, the foundation awarded $674,000 to benefit students and teachers throughout the school district through grants and scholarships. So those funds went to 58 different school sites and programs. So basically, we touched every building in the district. We are currently managing 147 funds, both permanent and temporary funds, totaling just over $5 million, which will continue to provide ongoing resources for our students. And we started the school year off on a great note, as we usually do with our back to school grant. So as you came in the building, you saw our big check, but We actually have upped that amount since that check presentation. And so we ended up awarding a total of $278,000 to teachers throughout the district for projects that they submitted through our back to school program. So that was a big day for us, and we are always very excited to be able to visit the teachers in their classroom and surprise them with a grant check. So it was a good way to start the year. We delivered a total of 82 grants to 41 schools. We'd like to give a very special thanks to all of the donors who made that possible. Without them, it would not be possible to do that. We had a lot of really great volunteers who came and got to spread the good news, and as usual, there was laughter, there was excitement, and there are always a few tears of joy, so you never know what you're going to get when you surprise a teacher in the classroom. And so just to kind of give you a little information about what's ahead, October we will kick off I believe our 5th year of our Pick a Project program. So if you wonder, well, what happens to the teachers that don't get their grants funded? Well, we offer this other great program for them to submit needs throughout the school year. Those needs are submitted online, and they are on our website where donors have the opportunity to go on and look at all the different needs throughout the district and choose where they want their funds to go. And we are very excited to have $10,000 in matching support through the donation from Burlington to offer that. So that will be a great incentive for teachers and for donors that every dollar that they make will be matched. So we're very excited about that. And finally, I just want to thank the board and the SPS staff for always being so great to work with. We are truly part of a great team, and we are just proud to serve. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Questions for Natalie? We just thank you for everything you do. for
Thank
the
you,
kids.
guys.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So
Forward
much
to
for
you.
so many years. Okay, item 7.02, Explore Report. Awesome.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Tonight, our team will be giving you the Explore 17 report. Mrs. Dana Hubbard will come to you and give you a review of the goals of the program, and then the Explore by the numbers, which you're used to seeing in the past. A little bit about our impact and the number of teachers being served, the number of students being served. Then Amy St. John is going to come up for the first time in our Explore report history to connect a little bit of the achievement data, based on 1 year of Explore 16 of a full year of that. So she will also be providing you some metrics around the feedback from teachers and students and our experiences. And Dana will then close with our next step. So it's my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Dana Hubbard to the podium.
Okay, so it's a real pleasure to be here this evening to share this information with you and to also represent all of the departments and individuals who worked so very hard to make Explore 2017 happen. So as we enter into this presentation this evening, this is just a reminder of what our Explore mission was. You can see that those foundational pieces of being engaging, relevant, and offering that personalized experience for kids, wrapped in that, the fun learning experiences driven by passion, inquiry, and community partnerships. Our goals for Explore 2017 were very much like last year, Explore 2016. The first one being the increasing those partnerships and experience for learners. We heard overwhelmingly that was something that our learners wanted more of. Support for our under-resourced learners and their families. And then number 3 changed slightly from last year. Rather than increasing enrollment, we wanted to maintain that enrollment and increase attendance of those students. Our presentation will be in 4 different chunks this evening. I'll share with you Explore by the numbers. That includes some hard-hitting data as well as some of those fun facts that we all enjoy hearing about Explore. We'll hear about the academic impact of Explore as well as some of our feedback from our stakeholders, and then to fill you in on some of the next steps that we are looking forward to for Explore 2018. So getting into Explore by the numbers, you will see there our enrollment did increase. We had a nice healthy increase this year for 2017. We're very pleased with that. Kindergarten enrollment held fairly steady. It was slightly down from last year, but anytime we can hit over 1,000 kindergartners coming in is a good thing. So we were very pleased to be able to hold that number steady. Online enrollment, as you can see, has doubled, more than doubled the last few years. And this year, with that red bar just shooting way up there, we really attribute that to the addition of online academies for our elementary students. Our kids, even those kids that maybe didn't take part in a seated class in Explore, took part in those academies while they were on vacation or away from the school, from the classroom. So that added to that number, as well as, you know, we held focus groups this time last year, in the fall of last year, and we heard overwhelmingly from our high schoolers they wanted to see more online course offerings. So we offered more online courses, and they rose to the occasion and enrolled in them. Our free and reduced enrollment, you can see there we're up slightly. The district level is at a 54.23%, so we are slightly above the district, not quite at the 57% of elementary enrollment. We would like to see us edge toward that goal. So we do see this as an opportunity for further improvement. Sorry, I went past. Okay, and this was an additional breakdown of free and reduced enrollment. You can see there as it pertains to elementary, middle, and high school divisions. And how we ranked with Explore. Elementary and high school being a little bit higher than the district numbers, and at the middle school we were slightly below.
Do you make anything of that?
It is really tough to engage our middle schoolers. I wouldn't venture to say why. I know that sometimes it's just really tough to get those kids engaged because they're old enough to, some of them, stay home by themselves, and that is a little bit attractive when you get to be that age that can happen. But as far as it being a free and reduced lunch rate issue, I'm just not exactly sure.
And it's not a lot, so.
No, it's not very much.
I just wanted to know if you thought something.
This is a great number that we enjoy seeing when we talk about reaching those under-resourced students and families. Seeing the meals served increase by that number in 2017 was great. And you know, that's just a lot of work through our nutrition services and finding the staffing for that. So big kudos to that team. Another big kudos to the hiring team through the work of Dr. Julie Steiger and Brady Quirk. We were able to make 859 teacher placements. If you look at the number from the year prior, that 746 teachers, those were filled. We had a 66% internal fill rate of that number in 2016. That meant that 66% of the teachers hired were from internal SPS. And this year, we were able to say that of those 859 teachers, we had an 83% internal fill rate. So our teachers really stepped up and applied, and we were able to place them in the positions that they wanted to be in, and we were very pleased about that. Here's another one I think we all enjoy seeing. Not only is Explore good for the students coming in, it's good for teachers, but it's also really good for our community when we have over $6 million in salaries and benefits going out to our teaching staff, and they in turn share those dollars with our community. This was another, a new piece to one of our goals is to increase attendance. And we did that in a variety of ways by continuing the great marketing piece of Explore, but also realizing the power and impact of a personalized phone call or a quick meeting out at the car line to encourage parents and students to enroll for Explore and also to continue attending. We made phone calls to make sure that kids realize we don't want you to miss out, we want you to be here. And as it turns out, those phone calls and the effort made by our secretaries and our teachers and even principals in the buildings did make a slight difference in that. So you can see that our attendance in session 1 is slightly higher at all levels in 2017. And in session 2, where it's a little bit tougher to get kids in, we do have a little bit of attrition in July. We were still able to enjoy a little bit of an increased attendance at both the elementary and the high school during the
Dana,
session.
is the online numbers enrollment included in here, or is this just seat time, the seated classes?
It's all the same.
All?
Okay, I'm very pleased the partnerships really are, and the experiences are really what make Explore so successful. And we engaged, last year we had 20 partners that we shared with you. This year we had 64 partners engage with us during programming for the summer in a variety of ways. With the help of those 64 partners, we were able to provide 812 field experiences to those kids. That's where they loaded up on a bus. And I know Rick Imling is here tonight, and he and his team did a fantastic job getting kids back and forth, not only to Explore, but to those field experiences. And then also 78 classroom visits with those expert voices from our business community. This was a new one for you this year to be able to share. No, in prior years we had not allowed book circulation to happen for kids to be able to check out books from our libraries. So we did circulate nearly 12,000 books over the summer. And again, when you talk about reaching those under-resourced families and students, a book in the hands of a kid during that summertime is all the difference in the world. So we're very pleased to be able to offer you that number tonight. And so I will go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you.
Hello. So this is exciting. This is the first look that we can take regarding the academic impact that we might be able to see. So to frame up your thinking and what we did here in terms of starting to look at this is we used one full set of data in the school year and looked to see who had been to Explore the prior summer. So we're going to go back in time to the summer before because we wanted to utilize a full set of data within iReady. So we've talked about beginning of year and end of year, and what we know is the research will start to tell us over time that we'll start to trend where we close that gap. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through a series of slides where we'll talk about the explorer and the non-explorer. And that's not to say that those kids weren't out and about, but it's the ones that we can see that we had at least an hour of attendance or more. So you can see lots of other data slices and dices could happen, but this is our first look at it. So we'll take a few slides here to do that with the percentage on grade level. So we talk about that a lot. We talk about the number of students that are at or above their grade level, and so we have the Explorer students versus the non. In math, what we can see is where it's not a huge gain, it's definitely slightly above, and that's exciting because the area of math is one that we have on our to-do list, if you will. It's one that we know that the data has been lagging, and so that was an exciting thing to see. We're nearly even for the reading score, so we're at 56.4, just to show you. We couldn't quite round up to the 57 there, but the results are coming in about the same for that. In the next slice of it, this is the under-resourced group of students, and so again, with the Explorer versus non-Explorer, and again, math on your left and reading on the right, we do see, again, another slight increase. I don't want to overstate that. This is 1 year of data and one batch of kiddos, but it's very exciting the first time that you get to see this type of data because it really kind of gives you the excitement to go further and to keep that longitudinal path so that you can continue to check. And again, we include that 0.3 with the reading just to kind of show you that it's just slightly above when we look at the percentage of students that are under-resourced that we do believe, especially remember in that slide that it talked about the students within the elementary, we have a greater number coming in that are free or reduced lunch status, as well as at the high school level. Then we look at kindergarten. As Dana mentioned, kindergarten is an important place to keep our eye on, as we know that first access to education is very important, and so we want to always take a peek at that. And with that group of kindergartners, anecdotally, we heard amazing things about the kiddos as they came back after having had the Explore experience, and they started the first day of their kindergarten year. They were ready. They were even more on the emotional side, they were ready because that was an experience that they had been in that building or they had been a part. And then fun things like line basics, they were good to go already. They didn't have to start from scratch with that, so it was very exciting. But the data shows just a slight, slight increase for those that were in Explore versus those that were not for both math and reading.
Amy, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
So what diagnostic tool did you use?
This is
Because
iReady.
this
This
is
is
iReady
the
for
whole set of
kindergartners?
this is the whole set of iReady
Okay.
data. And then what we did is we used that flag of who had attended and who had not to look at the difference. Yeah. Does that make sense to do it that way? Yeah.
I'm not sure that I picked up that we were using iReady for kindergarten.
We have, yeah. K-8. Yeah. It's exciting. And then we talk about some Explore graduates. There's a couple of familiar faces in that slide, isn't there? We definitely saw some increases in the number of students that graduated as a result of Explore. That's an opportunity that's just available to school districts where students can graduate and still be a part even of their four-year cohort. So just to kind of give a little bit of understanding there, if a student doesn't make it in May across the stage, we can go ahead and graduate them through those experiences in the summer, and they have that opportunity. Technically, they have the opportunity all the way up until the day before the next academic year starts, and we absolutely pushed that as far as we could with kids, where we did not give up on them, and they might call it pestering. We thought it was really encouragement. So yeah, 45 kids.
Persistence.
Very exciting. Another exciting part about this summer is we were able to use our tool, Panorama, that you've heard me talk about, and I'm actually going to be talking about more in a few more weeks. Panorama was the platform that we used for our survey data, and we were actually able to use some of the same types of questions that we use in the regular academic year, which again will give us great longitudinal data over time. Things like students, did you enjoy attending? I mean, just very simple, but when you put it all in the same hopper, in the same system, then we'll be able to tease that out over time as well. And so as you can see, that was a question that has been there since 15, but that is an increasing response where the students at 88.5% say that they enjoy attending Explore. You can tell by the looks on their faces in any classroom that you visit or field trip that you see.
When I was looking at that, I thought, you know, part of that is the way you have increased what happens there, but part of that is just it becoming a norm. And
That's a good point.
That's a really good
Yeah.
thing too.
It's the way we do it. I like that, yeah. The staff question, would you like to teach Explore again in the future? And as we just talked about, Dana mentioned the percentage of internal versus external teachers. That's just so exciting, you know, that 94% said, yeah, that would be something I would be interested in doing again. So very exciting stuff. Do you receive adequate training? This was near and dear to my heart because this also included the secretarial staff, which is what I get to be a part of, as well as the teacher participation and being ready with the curriculum. And we definitely saw some good feedback in this area where we were not ready to just pat ourselves on the back and be done, but definitely have the encouragement to keep going with the great efforts that we've made for training the staff. So. And then I think we'll turn it to Explore next steps with.
So we have a lot of work to do to get ready for Explore 2018, and some of the things that we are looking at, it's important for us to reflect, right, on what worked, what didn't work. So we're looking at those panorama results from all of our stakeholders to look at just those things and what people felt like worked and didn't work and what students felt like. We are also doing some departmental debriefings. We've done several of those already, and we'll continue with that. And we have our steering team joining together the first part of October. October 4th will be our first Explore 2018 planning meeting, where we will come together to establish some of the big rocks of what do we need to look at improving upon for this coming year. What do we need to keep doing that's really working? Process improvements are in order. As with anything, we believe that we probably will never quite arrive with some of these processes. So we do realize that we need to further refine hiring and training processes, as well as payroll and scheduling in the master schedule. Are engaging under-resourced students at a higher level. Again, we want to see our enrollment of our free and reduced kids to continue to increase and further meet that elementary percentage of 57% currently. So we need to develop some ideas on, we know those phone calls made a big impact on those families, and just that face-to-face contact with families. So we want to keep doing more of that and brainstorm some more ideas on how do we further engage those students as well as other students. And then the next iteration, we have already begun talking high school curriculum. We can always do some more to make that more engaging for students. Foreign language integration, we've had some ideas on that and partners that are interested in helping us out with it, as well as refining and maintaining those partnerships that we now have with those 64 partners. We want to make sure that we're honoring them and doing them justice, so we want to maintain those partnerships and further refine their engagement with our students. So that's the work. It's a small task, right? Thank you for listening this evening. We're happy to answer any additional questions you may have.
Questions for Dana, or Dr. Dawson, or Amy?
Thank Dana and her whole team. She represents a number of department leaders who have made this happen. And a couple of things just to follow up, we will be celebrating our partners, and I think you will be receive an invitation for that in October. We'll be asking for their feedback and other ways we can engage them and explore 18. So we are excited about this opportunity for kids. We still continue to look for ways to engage kids who are under-resourced to be in this space, and we'll just keep taking them one step at a time. So thank you for your support.
Thank you. Nice to see results. And data.
That's the key. You know, this isn't a one little thing that's going to fix it all, but over time, right? It's not just one summer, but it's probably 4 or 5 summers put back to back over time. That if you're going to talk about closing the achievement gap, so you may only see 1%, but if you start accumulating that over time, that's where the real potential has.
Compounding interest.
Compound it with Club Encore with some of the kids that need the additional hours of support.
Absolutely.
You start to see, I think, where the big potential is, and already see some gains. So, awesome work by the team. It's taken us a long ways in a short amount of time, and thanks to all the teachers that signed up and taught, because it was a great summer for SPS.
Great.
I think there's so much amazing, so many things that's amazing about it, but when someone mentions something to me, I love to be able to say 361,903 meals served. Just consider that what we're providing for our students, that might not be the case. So, I mean, certainly we're so impressed with what they're learning and what they're doing, the places they're getting to go, but when you're talking about meeting students' basic needs so they can continue to learn, that's amazing. So,
Those are some of the metrics that don't play out in I-ready
That's
score,
right.
right? So if you
But
think about
critically important.
the partners and the excursions, right, the opportunities for some of our under-resourced students to connect with parts of our community that they don't have access to on a regular basis, it's hopefully broadening their horizon and seeing what's possible. So, thanks to the team.
Great. Good job. Okay, moving on, 8.01. I know you're disappointed. We have no policies to review tonight.
Please.
Yeah, too bad. Okay, moving on, 9.01, we have no new business either to talk about, so that's a great thing. 10.01, local model compliance plan. We heard that 2 weeks ago. Any questions about that one anybody has?
Just need approval.
Yeah.
We need to.
Yeah, I would entertain a motion to approve the local model compliance plan for special ed. Motion by Tim,
A second?
second by Denise. All those in favor? So indicate.
Pop up? I didn't get one. Sherry, you didn't get one?
There we go.
Bruce takes better care of my computer.
So sweet too.
Can I vote a few more times?
I got it.
Didn't know I had a TI-99. Okay. All right,
Charles is
thank you.
coming on.
It's possessed. All right, thank you. Moving on, 11.01, public comments for non-agenda? None. Thank you, Ms. Luton. Okay, reports of administration, cabinet report.
Yeah, I'll ask cabinet members if they have any updates, and then I'll wrap it up, so. Spinning? Mike? Yes, Mike has some things.
I wanted to go first,
One, it's
so I could
open
thank
house
you.
season, so if you are out and about, I would encourage you to get to one of our sites who are hosting parents and creating great community engagement opportunities for our teachers and our kids and our parents. Number two, Encore. We've finished our first full weeks of Encore, and I'll kind of give you some metrics, and it kind of plays out to the Explore, right? So we're still trying to figure out how to engage that under-resourced kid. Last year, we had 840 students in our extended learning program for tutoring. This year, we have 1,675 students, unique students. So we've doubled our impact already. Last year, we had a total of about 17,000 hours of extra tutoring support. In the first week, we already have 6,800 hours recorded. So we're already going to surpass our year accomplishment by the end of September if we stay on this pace. We have over 200 teachers engaged. So we have other strategies also, not just hanging on Explore, but we're also going with Club Encore in this first week. So I got to give hats off to Kelsey and the curriculum team and everybody who's filling seats and putting kids here and there. We're adding kids every single day. So it's very exciting. I can't wait for the team to give you a full report in the near future. One more metric around that, of those kids, 72% of them qualify for free and reduced lunch. So when you think about our system average hovering around 55, and this is attracting that under-resourced learner in another way. So very exciting. Number three, I would want to thank Cherokee and the hundreds of teachers who went to Ed Camp this last Saturday. So it's just a kind of a spontaneous professional learning that takes place. And I know Dr. Jungman was able there to welcome them and thank them for being there. But it's a great opportunity, teachers coming and sharing best practices. Then lastly, I would mark your calendar for September 30th. Hickory Hills will be sponsoring the second annual Junior Chef Competition. And so I only say that because I'm a judge, and it's an awesome opportunity to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner in like 3 hours. So hope you can join us.
Like Dawson dream come true.
It is like perfect dream come true. Thank you.
I had to say no because I'll be out of town, but I would really like to do that sometime.
It's a lot of fun.
So I have two very important things to cover. One is a reminder that the request for information process on our surplus properties, Doling and Pepperdine, will close October 16th at 3 p.m. So interested parties need to get their proposals to the Sperry Van Ness Real Estate Company by the October 16th deadline. And then, Mr. Rosenberry, because inquiring minds want to know, I want you to know, yes, there is a Missouri statute. It's one sentence, and it's like 5 lines deep. And I think it was originated back in 1939 regarding county stock insurance revenue. So it's a tax that is paid on certain insurance premiums, and it's a 2% tax based on this information I read here. And it represents for Springfield Public Schools 0.14% of our revenue base. So there you have it.
Nice job, Cliff.
Yes.
It's still out there. There you go.
Cheers.
We'll take it, we'll take it. Thank you for the very detailed explanation.
Yes, yes.
That's great.
Just a couple other things from my seat. Just as you're aware, last meeting, we received the report from Mark Manus regarding feedback from both our voter base, stakeholder base, as well as our internal staff. So the administration is taking that report, building up some recommendations based on the findings. If you have things that are on your mind, obviously that's where Retreat will dig into them deeply. Let us know so that we can make sure they're kind of on the list. But the administration's currently under reviewing those findings and trying to build up some discussion items for Retreat on the 30th, where we'll dig into that topic. Second thing, Jerry and I were both able to attend state board meeting today in Jefferson City, where we learned a multitude of different pieces of information. Number one, the state budget proposals from the department, always interesting to see where those are going to land based on student growth and those things. So the formula call for next year is $98 million. So we're at full funding this year in current state. Hopefully we'll be able to land that, but the expectation is that you want to maintain that full funding. The call, based on the conditions that we know right now, would be $98 million additional dollars. That'd be a tough thing for the state to deliver at this point, we know, just because of the economic conditions, but there is some growth going on, but there are also lots of other needs. So beginning the conversations with what are the options in that space. A lot of that is the state adequacy target recalculation that happens every 2 years. The thresholds were recalculated also for free and reduced rate, LEP, and special education. And the biggest component of the shift is the early childhood number. So of that 98 million, about 40 plus, they'd said somewhere in the range of 48, but those thresholds and those things mesh, so it's hard to isolate it completely. So we'll say somewhere in between 40 and 48 million would be the early childhood call. If all districts, if we hit full funding, took advantage of all the seats that they would have access to next year, it would put an additional call in the formula of somewhere in that 40 to 45 million ballpark range. So that is what the statute says will play out. We know provisionally accredited districts and unaccredited districts already have access, and that created an additional call. This would be for all remaining districts if we can hit that target this year. But also understand that that's going to put a weight on the formula that's in addition to just the traditional SAT shift and the threshold shift. So we'll see what happens with that. There's also a couple other calls, the ECSE, Early Childhood Special Education, as well as High Needs Fund are the other two biggest calls. Total department request was $120 million, I do believe, that will go to the budget office as part of next year's budget. And then that's what goes into the governor builds out his first recommendation, which we know goes to the legislature, and the House builds their budget, then transfers to the Senate. So this is step one of the education budget we learned today. Lots of steps and lots of months, but this was the beginning. So we learned that. We also learned a little bit on EOC, APR. You heard us talk a little bit, and you've seen the announcements of the issues with the end-of-course exams. Not that they're not valid, but they're not comparable across districts and across the state. They've continued to reinforce that they will not release those. Districts can still use the individual raw score at the building level, but they won't release those as part of the APR. Hasn't been a final conclusion to what that APR is going to look like. The department's still studying that to try to figure out how best to make sure that they treat all districts equitably and fairly in that situation, and it doesn't create some kind of mass confusion. And I think that we heard them reinforce that they were going to make sure that that didn't happen, but the final announcement's not out yet. We also, obviously, you've seen in the media some other aspects that we don't have a state board member anymore from the congressional district that we live in. It's number 7, because they're assigned by congressional district. That seat was announced to be vacant today, so we're looking forward to a future appointment of someone hopefully with public education experience and knowledge that can help support. And we obviously had begun to build relationships with Ms. Gelner last week. Previous to that, she's been a great partner through Askinosie. Very disappointed to see that she was removed and moving into a different space at this point. So we'll see what plays out. Karen, I don't think if you have anything to add to that, but that's really what the state board meeting looked like today. And there's nothing legislatively moving right now as we are just prepping for session.
Okay, questions? Okay, board comments? Bruce?
I'd like to thank Melissa for speaking out to me as a victim. She was a victim of bullying, and she spoke out. Oftentimes in our school system, we have kids who are bullied and we don't tell anybody, and so things continue or they just get swept under the rug or whatever, and they carry this stuff with them. So I want to thank her for the courage to speak out, because I think then it will encourage others to do that, and also for us to be maybe more actively, or be active as a school board with more more actively even than we are to say it's important that the state school board is not a circus. It's not entertainment. It really is about leadership at that level, and we, the 900,000 students in the state need, that's what they need, not a circus that we have all this stuff going on. So I think it took a lot of courage for her to do what she did and stand up, because she could have just said okay and gone on. And I think it's, I want to thank her for doing that. I'm not sure how many people would have done it. I'm not sure I don't, who knows? But she did, and I think that took a lot of courage to say this is what I was going to be about on this board, or what that board truly is about. And I think that was reiterated today, or at least I wasn't there, but from what you all sent out, that was reiterated on what they're supposed to be doing. So maybe it'll turn out okay.
Well said.
For sure.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, upcoming meetings. Any upcoming meetings besides MSBA, and I know we meet one more time before that.
Don't think anything else on the regular meeting schedule.
Good. Okay, plus deltas. Anything, comments you have about the meeting, please jot it down, put it up on the board. Use that to go. We do not need to go into executive session tonight, so no executive session. So has anybody else got anything else they need to bring up? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Jill, second by Tim. Please vote. We are adjourned.